We all sit down for a 2 or 3 hour epic, a sci-fi masterpiece, maybe a brutal historical drama, a
Right.
tense crime thriller, and we just get swept away by the flow, the rhythm, the emotional punch of it
Yeah,
all.
absolutely. You're just in it.
But have you ever stopped to really wonder who's actually controlling that flow? Who's like manipulating time itself within the film?
Mhm.
And what happens when the architect of that time, the person shaping it, is actually a classically trained composer?
Well, that's exactly where we're going today. We are diving deep into the world of, I guess you could say, the ultimate invisible performer, the film editor.
Right.
Specifically, we're exploring the career of Joe Walker. He's a British master whose precise, almost musical sensibility has really shaped some of the most complex and definitely some of the most intense cinematic storytelling of the last, 20 years.
Easily. So our mission in this deep dive, it's pretty comprehensive. We're really going to unpack the sources on Walker's path, from his surprisingly grounded musical background right up to his, well, truly revolutionary work.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
We'll focus intently on his creative partnerships, tracing that arc from, say, the really searing human dramas he did with Steve McQueen
Right. Those are something else.
to the monumental kind of time-bending sci-fi epics he crafted with Denis Villeneuve. Our goal is to understand not just what he cuts, but like how he harnesses time
Exactly.
and why one very demanding director of Villeneuve openly declared him his hero after a particularly grueling edit.
Yeah, that tells you a lot right there. And look, the big reveal, it's already cemented in Hollywood history, really.
Mm.
But it's a track record that's definitely worth celebrating right at the start.
For sure.
Walker is the British film editor who won the Academy Award for Best Film Editing for his, staggering work on Dune back in 2021.
Yep, finally got the statue for that one.
And that Oscar win, it followed prior nominations for, landmark dramas like
Right.
12 Years a Slave.
Crucial film,
And that really conceptual sci-fi challenge that was Arrival.
which we'll definitely get into. Oh, yeah. And then add to that his ACE award win, that's the American Cinema Editors Award, also for Arrival, plus multiple satellite awards, European Film Awards. You get a really clear picture of a craftsman who just delivers consistent, impeccable quality across radically different genres, too.
That consistency, yeah, that's the key thing here. And it seems like it starts with a foundational background that's, well, a lot richer than just, a simple path through film school.
Absolutely goes way deeper.
Okay, so let's unpack this background because it feels like this is where we find those foundational skills that really informed his whole career, right?
Totally.
Walker grew up in West London and Ealing. But the sources give us these amazing little historical nuggets about his family, things that suggest a grounding in, well, narrative and maybe even high stakes communication.
Absolutely. The material highlights, for instance, that he was raised Catholic and his father was a history master.
Okay, history time.
Yeah. So a background that kind of instills a deep sense of structure, maybe historical rigor, the importance of, chronological narrative.
Makes sense.
But the detail I find most fascinating, the one that links him directly to this monumental period of English history and decision-making,
Go on.
is that his mother was actually one of Winston Churchill's wartime shorthand typists.
Get out. Seriously, Churchill's typist.
Yeah. Imagine that.
Wow. Think about that connection. The person responsible for recording these crucial, often life and death decisions for a nation in peril. That level of, precision, speed, accuracy, just managing raw information under pressure.
I do think some of that seeps into the family DNA, right? That kind of focus.
For sure.
And crucially, before he ever touched a frame of film picture, he was completely immersed in sound, structure, and pacing.
Right, the music.
Exactly. He trained initially as a classical composer. He got his Bachelor of Arts degree in music from the University of York way back in 1984.
Okay, so this musical foundation, it isn't just some interesting footnote on his CV. It sounds like it's the entire blueprint for his editing philosophy.
I think that's fair to say, yeah.
So how exactly does that discipline, classical composition, translate into the job of, cutting film?
Well, when we analyze film editing at its, highest level, we're fundamentally talking about temporal structure, time.
Right.
A composer deals with rhythm, harmony, counterpoint, duration, all of that. Walker understands how to use, say, sustained passages, which in film might mean really long takes, like those famous ones in his McQueen collaboration.
Oh, yeah, those stand out.
And he also knows how to use dissonance or fragmented rhythms, which translates perfectly to cross-cutting complex, maybe non-linear structures like you see in Arrival or Dune.
Huh. So if a scene feels, I don't know, too rushed or maybe drags on too long, it's not necessarily just a visual problem. It's more like a rhythm problem.
Precisely. It's a rhythm problem, which a composer is kind of uniquely equipped to solve. They instinctively feel that timing. A composer knows how to build tension over time, how to resolve it, and maybe most importantly, how to use sustained silence. The rest, for maximum emotional impact.
The power of the pause.
Exactly. So when Walker learned editing, which he did in the BBC's film department, conveniently located right there at Ealing Studios.
Wow. Ealing again.
He wasn't really learning a brand new language. It was more like translating a composer's discipline directly into visual cuts and narrative movements.
That's a great way to put it. And speaking of his early steps, we absolutely have to mention his first, professional foray into the industry.
Oh, this is a good one.
It wasn't as a picture editor, was it? It was sound editor for a BBC series called Firstborn in 1988. And the story behind it is just, it's one of those bizarre anecdotes that just sticks with you.
It truly is. The material reveals that for that specific project, his task was to find and then somehow coax the legendary animal impersonator Percy Edwards.
Wait, the Percy Edwards? The guy who voiced the whale in Orca?
That's the one. He had to get him out of retirement just to provide the necessary gorilla noises for the series.
No way, gorilla noises. That was his big break.
That was his entry point. But what's actually fascinating here, beyond the sheer oddity of it, is that this eccentric gig actually established a foundational relationship, one that would become absolutely crucial later on.
Okay.
That job marked his very first collaboration with the composer Hans Zimmer.
What, Zimmer? On the gorilla noise job?
But believe it or not, imagine that.
Yeah.
His career kind of starts with a composer collaboration centered around gorilla noises.
That's wild.
And then decades later, they're working together defining the absolutely epic soundscape of Dune. It just shows how those early connections, even the weird ones, can really matter down the line.
That's incredible. So after proving his worth in sound, presumably with some top-notch gorilla work,
Presumably, yeah.
he moves into film editor roles. And it started, maybe unsurprisingly, given his background, with classical music documentaries for the BBC.
Makes sense. That would reinforce his understanding of complex, structured performance, timing, all of that.
Right. And then he quickly demonstrated his range. He transitioned to early drama, like Julian Farino's Out of the Blue, and even comedy, specifically 2 series of David Renwick's popular mystery show, Jonathan Creek.
Yeah, I remember that one.
So cutting comedy, drama, documentaries, they all require pretty distinct tempos, right? Different ways of managing the audience's expectations and reactions.
Totally different rhythms.
Yeah.
By cutting such, wide-ranging material so early on, he was basically mastering the nuances of tempo and genre before he ever got the call for those major feature films. He was building that versatility muscle.
Laying all the groundwork.
Exactly. Okay, so moving into his feature film career, the sources make it abundantly clear that Joe Walker's work is really framed by 2 monumental director partnerships.
Right, these big collaborations.
The first one, and you could argue maybe the most emotionally intense, was with the director Steve McQueen. And this was a collaboration really built on, I'd say, uncompromising thematic weight, often human trauma, and a really strategic use of silence and duration.
Yeah, intensity is the word. They collaborated on 4 films, right? And they started with just a shocking immediate impact. Hunger in 2008. This was that searing, really visceral portrayal of the IRA hunger strikes at Longkesh, starring Michael Fassbender. And it immediately won the Camera d'Or at Cannes. This film, it wasn't just intense, it really challenged the audience with its pacing.
Oh, absolutely. Hunger is like the perfect exhibition of Walker's approach to duration.
How so?
Well, when an editor uses time as their superpower, like Walker does, they know when not to cut.
Ah, okay. Holding the shot.
Exactly. We see this most famously in that incredible 17-minute single-take conversation between Fassbender and Liam Cunningham.
Unforgettable scene.
Right, or just the extended, almost painful sequences of mundane institutional life. Walker uses that sustained discomfort to force the audience into the physical and the mental space of the characters.
You feel trapped with them.
You do. And that sustained tempo, that holding, it feels like a direct manifestation of a composer's ability to hold a long, resonant note. It has weight.
That makes sense. They quickly followed that raw intensity up with Shame in 2011, another really powerful Fassbender vehicle.
Yeah, very different setting, though.
Totally. This time exploring sexual obsession and self-destruction, but in a very modern Manhattan landscape. The pacing here felt different again, really claustrophobic, deeply isolated.
It did. And shame, that film cemented Walker's international critical success in his own right. It earned him the European Film Award for Best Editor in 2012.
Ah, okay.
So he proved he could apply that same deliberate, sometimes unforgiving rhythm to modern psychological drama, not just historical drama. The core skill was transferable.
Right, the underlying principle holds. And then came the definitive breakthrough, I think, for both of them, really. 12 Years a Slave in 2013.
Monumental film.
Just universally acclaimed. Yeah. Swept the major awards, Best Picture Oscar, Golden Globe, BAFTA. But handling a story as profoundly brutal as Solomon Northup's true narrative, that must have required immense ethical discipline in the editing room.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
The core editorial challenge there was, how do you pace the horrors of slavery without tipping over into, like, exploitative spectacle?
Yeah, a very fine line.
A very fine line. And Walker's solution, which again seems derived from his mastery of rhythm, was to use these long, almost agonizing takes during moments of, say, quiet reflection or institutional cruelty.
Like the whipping scenes.
Exactly, like that sustained close-up on Chiwetel Ejiofor's face during those scenes.
Yeah.
And then using precise, really impactful cuts during the moments of necessary brutality, making them sharp, immediate, but crucially, never drawn out for cheap sensationalism.
Right. It's such a knife-edge decision, isn't it? Balancing that historical rigor, the need to show the truth, with audience endurance and just basic human decency. The cuts themselves feel like they speak to a deep respect for the subject matter, ensuring the pain feels, I don't know, earned and observed rather than just consumed.
Well said.
Right.
And the profound impact of that editing, it's perfectly captured by one of its stars. The sources highlight that when Lupita Nyong'o accepted her Academy Award, she specifically paid this remarkable public tribute to Walker. She described him as the invisible performer in the editing room.
Wow. The invisible performer. That phrase is just, it's such a perfect summary of what great editing achieves, isn't it?
It really is.
You shouldn't notice the mechanics, the cuts themselves, but you absolutely have to feel the emotional rhythm, the narrative force they create, and that relies entirely on the editor's timing.
And McQueen himself, the director, he reinforced this connection back to Walker's musical roots when he talked about Walker's ability to use absent silence as a tool.
What did he say?
The director stated, and this is crucial, he said, "A great film editor is attuned to the silences. They can be just as valuable as the words. It's all about timing. And that's what he has. Joe has time."
Joe has time. That's fascinating. The idea that silence holds just as much structural weight as action or dialogue. That's pure composer thinking applied to film.
Exactly. It's the moment the orchestra pauses, maybe before a big crescendo, and you just wait for the resolution.
Right. And in 12 Years a Slave, those silences are just agonizing. They force you, the viewer, to confront the sheer duration of Solomon's suffering. There's no cutting away from it.
Precisely. They completed their quartet of collaborations with the 2018 heist thriller Widows.
Yeah, more of a genre piece.
More commercial, for sure. But even in that film, Walker injected that same sense of measured, powerful gravity. It proved that the McQueen-Walker partnership, it was one built on this mutual respect for pacing and thematic weight, regardless of the film's budget or, genre trappings.
It's a consistent voice, even across different stories.
Definitely. Okay, so then we have this major transition, moving from the stark, emotionally searing, really character-focused dramas of McQueen to the massive, conceptually complex worlds of Denis Villeneuve. This represents a total, overhaul of technique almost.
A whole different ballgame.
Completely. This is a true test of range. Moving from that intimate use of duration to this grand, often non-linear architecture.
Big shift.
And Walker didn't just meet the challenge, he absolutely mastered it, resulting in 5 feature film collaborations so far that required a totally different approach to time and space.
So where did they start?
They kicked things off with the brutal crime thriller Sicario in 2015.
Yeah, fantastic film.
Incredible tension. While it's grounded in reality, it was just a masterclass in controlled surgical tension, all centered around that secret CIA operation on the Mexican border.
Relentlessly paced.
Absolutely. And that film earned Walker his first Satellite Award for Best Editing in 2016.
So how did he build that tension differently than in, say, the McQueen films?
Well, Sicario really showcases Walker's ability to manage escalating tension through cross-cutting. Think about that famous scene, the big one, where the team gets held up in that massive traffic jam near the border crossing.
Oh, yeah, edge of your seat stuff.
Totally. The sequence just builds pressure relentlessly by intercutting between the interior of the vehicles, the faces of the agents, Emily Blunt, Benicio del Toro,
Yeah.
then cutting to the bystanders, the surrounding cars, the potential threats everywhere. It's this kind of mechanical rhythm, almost like a ticking clock.
Right, tightening the screws.
Exactly. It ensures that the violence, when it finally erupts, feels sudden and shocking, but is not telegraphed in a cheap way.
Got it. But it was their next film that truly, I think, leveraged Walker's structural and temporal superpower, as you called it.
Oh, for sure. Arrival.
Yeah, Arrival in 2016. The psychological science fiction film based on Ted Chiang's amazing short story, Story of Your Life.
Hmm.
This film wasn't just difficult, it was like a complex narrative puzzle built entirely around the nonlinear perception of time.
And this is where that composer background becomes absolutely essential again.
Oh.
Because the film's entire emotional punch, the whole thing, relies on the audience believing they're watching flashbacks of Amy Adams' character's daughter.
Right, that's how it feels.
But then the final reveal demonstrates they were actually watching flash forwards, memories viewed through the lens of her future self after she learns the alien language.
Mind-bending stuff.
Totally. So getting the audience to experience that time loop alongside the protagonist without confusing the narrative completely or, crucially, prematurely revealing the structural twists, that was an immensely difficult job.
So technically then, how do you even edit ambiguity like that? How does Walker manage that layering of time without just making the audience feel completely lost?
Well, it seems to be all about rhythmic modulation and the repetition of specific visual and sonic motifs.
Okay.
The visual cues for the protagonist's memories, they had to look and feel authentic as memories, using specific light or framing, maybe a certain softness.
Right, the language of flashbacks.
Yeah, exactly. But Walker had to slowly, subtly layer in details that, upon a second viewing, reveal their true futuristic nature. He had to cross-cut moments from different timelines, ensuring the emotional continuity was always maintained, even if the temporal continuity was deliberately misleading.
Wow.
It's like counterpoint editing at its absolute best. The visuals might be saying one thing, but the underlying structure is subtly suggesting something entirely different.
That sounds incredibly complex, and the sources confirm just how intense that process was. Villeneuve's high praise about this project, it really says it all. He said, and I'm quoting here, "Each film has its hero. For this one, the editor Joe Walker is mine. Arrival was by far the hardest film to edit. Christ, we worked hard."
Yeah, that kind of acknowledgement, calling your editor your hero, especially on what was probably his most conceptually ambitious film to date, it speaks volumes about Walker's technical mastery under just extreme pressure. And that colossal effort, it resulted in Walker securing his ACE award win and his second Academy Award nomination. It really cemented his reputation as the editor capable of handling that high-level conceptual complexity just as effectively as he handled the intense emotional realism of the McQueen films.
Total versatility. Then they moved into true epic scale, didn't they? With the massive Frank Herbert adaptations, starting with Dune in 2021.
Yep, the big one.
And Dune, that was the work that finally secured him his Oscar win for Best Film Editing. Long overdue, many felt.
I think so. And Dune presented a whole new set of challenges. You've got the challenge of balancing this vast cosmic scope, the politics, the world building.
Yeah, huge world.
With the very intimate internal journey of Paul Atreides. Walker basically had to edit the rhythm of an entire planet.
How do you mean?
Well, when we're on Arrakis, the desert planet, the pacing often feels slow, dusty, oppressive. It reflects the physical scale, the heat, the danger.
Right, you feel the environment.
But then, when Paul experiences his prescient visions, his glimpses of the future, the editing becomes fragmented, kinetic, really rapid fire. It's like a structural counterpoint within the same film, a different time signature almost.
Huh. Interesting. And the sources also point out a fun little nugget about Dune too, right?
Oh, yeah. In addition to editing the whole thing, Walker actually provided some of the vocal narration for the film as well, just a little bit.
Multi-talented guy.
Clearly.
Yeah.
And that collaboration is still driving modern cinematic standards. Their fifth partnership, Dune, Part 2, just came out in 2024. And that earned him his third Satellite Award win for editing.
Incredible run.
It really is. And this entire arc with Villeneuve, it powerfully demonstrates Walker's central kind of governing belief about his craft. He has explicitly stated that time is the editor's greatest superpower.
There it is again.
He doesn't just cut frames. He's actively manipulating the audience's very experience of duration and chronology.
And that superpower, it feels directly traceable back to his origins, back to the music.
I think absolutely. Whether it's McQueen's sustained, often painful duration or Villeneuve's complex time loops and carefully structured flashbacks, his entire body of work showcases essentially a composer orchestrating narrative elements over a defined yet somehow malleable timeline.
Orchestrating time itself.
Pretty much sums it up. Now, while the McQueen and Villeneuve films are definitely his, widely known tentpoles, the real depth of Walker's versatility, I think, shines when you look at his broader portfolio.
Beyond those two big names.
Exactly. He's demonstrated this capacity to handle radically different scales, formats, material. It really emphasizes just how adaptable his command of rhythm actually is.
Okay, like what else stands out?
Well, the documentary feature Life in a Day from 2010 is just a stunning example of dealing with scale and structural challenge.
Oh, I remember that project. Directed by Kevin Donald, produced by Ridley Scott.
That's the one. And the editorial task here wasn't shaping a script. It was basically crafting a narrative out of pure chaos.
Because it was all user-submitted footage, right?
From YouTube users all over the world, yeah. The challenge was just monumental. The film had to be distilled from an astonishing 4,500 hours of footage.
4,500 hours.
Yep. All captured on a single day in July 2010. That process, it's less like traditional scene editing and more like, I don't know, geological surveying, searching for thematic narrative gold within this mountain of raw data.
Wow. He had to find, like, universal emotional truths, these tiny little narrative arcs, cohesive moments, across thousands of totally diverse, random perspectives.
And then somehow stitch them all together into one cohesive 90-minute film that represents a single day on Earth.
That requires an editor who can just ruthlessly triage information and identify thematic motifs almost instantly. An incredible organizational feat as much as an artistic one.
Absolutely. And remember, before he became this, go-to Hollywood giant, he also helped define a really crucial period of British independent cinema, showcasing his versatility in genre films, too. He cut Rupert Wyatt's tense prison drama, The Escapist, back in 2008, and the gritty Michael Caine vigilante film, Harry Brown, in 2009.
Ah, Harry Brown, yeah. Very different vibe.
Totally. Those required much more fast-paced, kind of propulsive editing techniques compared to, say, Hunger.
Right. And we also see his historical range again in the 2010 reworking of the Graham Greene classic, Brighton Rock.
Yeah, they reset that one, didn't they?
They did. Set it against the backdrop of the intense mod and rocker riots in 1964. Cutting action that's that fast, that stylized, it requires a completely different beat again. Different rhythm entirely than the measured solemnity of 12 Years a Slave.
Totally different toolkit needed. And we also have to remember his extensive foundation in television. Before he was solely focused on major features, his TV resume was absolutely packed.
Right, you mentioned the BBC earlier.
Yeah, and that gave him the deep technical speed and versatility you really need for a long-form narrative. He cut Jimmy McGovern's drama, The Lakes. He cut the big ITV blockbuster adaptation of Dr. Zhivago.
Oh, wow, the one with Sam Neill and Keira Knightley.
That's the one. And also the Channel 4 adaptation Sword of Honor, which starred a pre-Bond Daniel Craig.
No kidding. Craig, too. So these projects, they require efficiency, right? Speed.
Definitely. When you're managing episodic TV or miniseries content, you have to establish character and mood really quickly. You have to maintain a pace that respects, commercial breaks or just the structure of telling a story over multiple hours. It's like training in narrative speed dating almost.
Ah, good analogy.
And all of this diverse work, it constantly seems to tie back to that initial musical discipline. It's not just that he trained as a composer. The sources say he actually continues to work as one sometimes.
Really? He still composes?
Yeah, it shows this holistic understanding of how sound and visuals have to interweave. He actually wrote the score for the BBC HBO drama Dirty War.
He wrote the score himself?
Yep. And apparently, his music has even been played live by the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra in Trafalgar Square.
Okay, that's seriously impressive. It's a remarkable artistic arc, really. That holistic skill set, the ability to write the score and cut the picture, it proves he thinks of the film as the single temporal unit, not just a series of images strung together.
I think so. And that artistic skill, it was officially recognized in 2019 when his alma mater, the University of York, awarded him an honorary doctorate.
Nice full circle moment there.
Yeah. And just quickly looking at his other big budget work, the breath is just clear.
Yeah.
He cut Michael Mann's techno-thriller Black Hat.
Polarizing film, but Mann's editing is always distinctive.
For sure. He did the intense Sandra Bullock drama The Unforgivable, directed by Nora Fingscheid. And he co-edited Gareth Edwards' visual spectacle, The Creator, more recently.
So this consistent demand for his skill set across all these different directors and genres, from, intense art house drama to massive studio techno thrillers, it just proves his versatility. He seems able to master basically every conceivable tempo.
He really does seem to have that range.
Okay, so when we look specifically at the accolades section of the sources, the story kind of shifts, doesn't it? It moves from these individual triumphs, like the Oscar win,
Right.
to one of just consistent peer-driven validation. It's not just about winning the big one. It's about that sustained nomination streak, particularly from his fellow editors.
Exactly. That's a really key point. The sources show he's received this remarkable string of 6 nominations for the American Cinema Editors Award, the ACE Eddie, for Best Edited Feature Film in the Dramatic category.
6 ACE nominations.
6. That is the highest recognition you can get from your fellow cutters, the people who know exactly how hard the job is. And it just confirms his status as this benchmark editor who consistently produces high-level, incredibly difficult work.
And that impressive list of nominations, it perfectly encapsulates his ability to just jump genres seamlessly, doesn't it?
It really does. The nominations span both of his major director partnerships and the distinct genres they represent. You've got nominations for 12 Years a Slave in 2013.
McQueen Intensity.
Then Sicario in 2015, the Villeneuve thriller. Then Blade Runner 2049 in 2017, another massive Villeneuve sci-fi. Then Dune in 2021, and most recently Dune, Part 2 in 2024.
All Villeneuve apart from 12 Years.
Right. And of course, sandwiching those, the actual win in 2016 for the incredibly challenging edit on Arrival.
So 5 of the 6 are Villeneuve films, plus the McQueen masterpiece. It shows where his most recognized complex work has been recently.
Definitely. And the consistent recognition across all the major bodies, from BAFTA to the European Film Awards, is just undeniable. Just to quickly recap the key wins we mentioned: the Academy Award for Dune in 2021.
The big one.
The European Film Award way back for Shame in 2011.
Right, early recognition.
And a really remarkable 3 Satellite Award wins for Sicario, Dune, and Dune Part 2.
So what this whole collection of accolades really underscores for you, the listener, is that Walker isn't defined by just one narrow style.
Not at all.
He can transition from the raw, emotional rhythm needed for an intense character study like Shame or 12 Years, where silence is maybe the primary tool, to the incredibly complex conceptual structures of massive sci-fi like Arrival or Dune, where time itself is practically the main obstacle or theme. He's defined really by the quality and the complexity of his control over that most powerful tool an editor possesses: time.
That's the through line, his mastery of time. Hashtag tag outro. So, wrapping this up, what does this all really mean? I think Joe Walker's career is just the perfect case study in how foundational, maybe seemingly unrelated skills can fundamentally shape professional genius.
Yeah.
The discipline of the classical composer, someone trained meticulously in rhythm, counterpoint, duration. It translated directly into an editor's uncanny ability to manipulate time on screen.
And that mastery, it allows him to find the necessary, sometimes agonizing silence in painful historical dramas like 12 Years a Slave.
Yeah.
And simultaneously orchestrate these incredibly complex, non-linear time loops and cosmic epics like Arrival or Dune. He truly is that invisible performer who shapes our emotional experience and our perception of narrative flow in a way few others can even approach.
Absolutely. We've seen today how absolutely crucial Walker's background in music was for understanding structure and rhythm in film. It really was the foundation of his unique superpower, that ability to control time.
Okay, so we want to leave you with this final provocative thought to maybe chew on, something built on the evidence of Walker's own journey.
Go for it.
Think about that high-pressure job his mother had, typing Churchill's vital wartime communications. Or think about that completely eccentric first gig he had, coaxing gorilla sounds out of a tired actor alongside Hans Zimmer.
The strange origins.
If the mastery of musical rhythm and those seemingly unrelated, maybe detail-oriented skills from his background could translate into this fundamental control over massive film epics, what everyday skill or perhaps deep-rooted knowledge that you possess, maybe a hobby you have, a detail-oriented habit, some obscure piece of knowledge you've picked up, what might actually be the dormant foundation of your own unique creative or professional superpower?
That's a great question. Think about what you already master, perhaps without even realizing its potential application elsewhere. What could translate into unparalleled control or influence over your work?
Find your foundational rhythm.
Find your rhythm. And thank you for going deep with us today.